How y'all doing?
Good. How are you?
Great.
How was practice? How was the bye week for
It
you?
was great. Before we begin, I want to shout out the Harden family, Mr. Brian Harden. He unfortunately passed away yesterday. A great supporter of Alabama athletics and Alabama football. Let us go out there to hunt sometimes. So I'm going to keep, his family and everybody close to him in our prayers, man. So we'll miss him dearly, and God bless him. So I want to shout him and his family out before we begin. So,
what are some of those memories hunting on the Harden property?
Yeah, we went this year. I've been going since my freshman year. Became pretty close to Mr. Brian. A lot of guys have, let us just something to get away from everything, right? And a guy who, loves Alabama athletics and football dearly, and having gained a great man. Very, very heartbreaking, but he's in a better place, and praying for him and his family.
I know you guys have moved on from South Carolina, but Coach Grubb said that fourth quarter was maybe the biggest growth moment for you guys this season. Do you kind of see that? Do you agree with that?
Yeah, certainly, right. We'd like to start faster for one, but it's a kind of a testament to the guys of like just being resilient, and always chugging along and just going 1-0, right. Credit to the guys and just everything in general of just not looking at the scoreboard and keep playing, and being process oriented of just playing the next play. So we take it and learn from it and get ready for our next game.
He said you individually, though, did a good job of leading the guys on the sideline. How important is that to you to kind of keep the guys in it whenever you guys are maybe down and trying to rally?
Well, yeah, certainly, right? Just trying to get belief in the guys when, it kind of felt like the twilight zone, just everything, that we usually do good just wasn't going our way, you know what I mean? And it wasn't just, me, it was, other guys like Parker, Germ, Jam, Josh, right, giving us a spark. And even, when I was kind of, getting down, right, they're like, hey, let's go. We got you. You know what I mean? So, that's just a testament to how close we are, right? Because, when somebody else is down, right, like it just puts belief in all of us. And, when somebody else said something, it's like, you know what, yeah, like, let's go, man. Like, I'm ready to rock and roll. So, love those guys, and it was great.
How close did you feel on some of those deep balls? What's the key to kind of connecting?
Yeah, we worked on it a lot this week, right? And even last week of just, opportunities one-on-one, because this team this week is very good in man coverage, right? And, we anticipate them playing man. And one, I need to give the guys a chance, right? And then two, we need to, be on the same page of, how we're going to run it and, the timing of it, right? But that's something that, we know that we need to work on, and we've gotten better at it since, we've been practicing. So excited to get an opportunity like that.
There's been a lot of talk about kind of the improvement of the run game. And I'm curious about, has there been talk about you kind of taking a little bit of that load and tucking and running a little bit more option?
Yeah, absolutely, right. I think the quarterback, running game is a big part of, college football in general, right? Just because it gives the defense another thing to worry about, and then it gives us another hat to be able to block, right? I think that me running is an underrated part of my game. It's not my best game, right? But I can move a little bit. So any chance that I can help the team, whether it's taking off and running or a design run or even an option, right? I'm all for it. So we got some stuff ready, but like we always do, right? Just execute the play that's called.
What do you see in the LSU defense when you put them on tape?
Yeah, coaching change or not, right? It's the same players, they've been in every game, regardless of their record. I think that, by far, one of the best defensive back ends in the league, right? If not the country, right? These guys play hard. They're in your face, right? They got good, coaches. With Coach Baker as their defensive coordinator, right? And it's going to be a challenge, right? Like any game in the SEC, coaches gone or not, right? It is hard. So, we need to be ready to go. and understand that, like, hey, like, these guys are going to come after you, and, you know, this is a part, you know, of one of those games, right, where you stay at Alabama in my case, or, you know, you come to Alabama, right? Alabama versus LSU goes back to, you know, since we were kids, right, of the game of the century, 2019, you know, game, right? All those players, and that's one of those type games, you know. So, you know, it'll be exciting. You know, two good teams, two great matchups, and we're going to be ready to play.
Is there something?
You get a bigger understanding of where you guys stand on a national scale with the college football playoff rankings and things like that. Is that something even on your radar at this point with those first?
I mean, not really, no, right? Because at the end of the day, right, like, if we don't play up to our standard these next couple games, then none of it matters. You know what I mean? Like, we have to take one game at a time and, you know, go 1-0, as we say, right? Because, you know, rankings don't mean anything. You know, like, we've had, you know, it was a tough stretch ahead, or in the back end, right? But it's a tougher stretch ahead, right? You know, we say, you know, you're remembered for what you do in November, right? Well, these next couple games are how you're going to be remembered, right? How you play, you know, when people are tired, they're hurt, you know, it's a long season, right? You know, we got, you know, 4 good teams ahead of us. Like, we need to be, you know, ready to rock and roll and understand, like, hey, when we come to Alabama, we, you know, pull ourselves apart in November by, you know, being resilient and being ready to go beat anybody.
Does it, with the weather and with the, you know, just the month of November, does that kind of amp up the intensity for y'all a little bit? What's the month of November like for you?
Yeah, you know, it's football. You know what I mean? Like, it's on the back end. You know, basketball game yesterday, right? It's like, dang, you know, I remember the first day of camp. So, you know, that puts it in perspective. And then two, right? It's, you know, where teams separate ourselves, right? You know, I just said you're remembered for what you do in November, but in order to be remembered what you did in November, you know, it starts in September and October, right? And so, you know, we've had a good September, October, and we need to make sure that, you know, we don't piss it away and, you know, just be glad we had, you know, a good season in the front end, right? You know, we need to finish it out and make sure that we you know, we come ready to play and we separate ourselves, you know, these next couple games.
Your predecessor, Jalen Milroe, had 2 really strong games against LSU the last two years. What can you take from his performance and maybe kind of take for yourself into this game?
Yeah, just not being, you know, out of your element, right? Like, I thought Jalen, you know, watching him over the last 2 years, did a great job of just being himself, you know, running around making plays and just, you know, making it easy, right? Easy and simple. That was something that he was so good at, right? Just making it simple and making sure that, you know, he wasn't ever out of his element and you know, in times where he needed to shine, he did. And so, you know, we're just watching those 2 games and studying those, right? Like, he just did what he was good at and made sure that, you know, he didn't make it bigger than what it is in those big-time games. And so that's what I need to do, just make it simple, and, you know, do the little things right and just, you know, play my game.
Is there a quarterback or quarterbacks that you model your game after, and kind of who are those?
You know, I really like Joe Burrow. You know, one, coach's son. You know, didn't play a whole lot early like I did, and just kind of the way that he moves and plays. You know, I really like how he does it. You know, I think Jared Goff is one who I really like. Right, just, you know, under center, a lot of stuff that the Lions do or stuff that we do. And then, you know, I think honestly like Baker Mayfield. You know, little guy who would do anything to win. He's tough. And, you know, maybe not be the biggest guy, but, you know, he's going to get it done any type way, right? Very resilient. And so I think those are my, like, you know, 3, and then you can throw Matt Stafford in there as well. But, you know, I really like the way those guys play because I see a lot of myself in them.
One of the things Ryan Griggs said yesterday was he wants to get you guys kind of freaking excited about running the ball. I'm curious about what that looks like on the practice field. What is that excitement from the coaching staff?
Yeah, just, you know, ready to, you know, roll, right? Like, you know, you set the tone when you run the ball, whether it's, you know, with duo, power, counter, right? You know, the way you perform up front is how, you know, you set the tone for the game, right? And if we just rely on, you know, the pass game and rely on, you know, bailing us out on 3rd down with our skill players, right? Like, you know, it's a hard way to live. And so, you know, when we call run play in the huddle, you know, guys need to be like, you know, heck yeah, like this is, you know, we're going to get 8 yards here, right? Because I'm going to make sure that, you know, we get a good double team or we pull tight and have tight hands, you know what I mean? So just stuff like that to make sure, you know, it starts in practice and we carry it to the game.
We're going to see some new runs. We're going to see some new run concepts this week.
Yeah, I mean, you know, we're going to see some, you know, new run concepts and new, you know, pass concepts, right? Like, you know, we've had 2 weeks to prepare, but, you know, I'm sure they're going to have something as well, right? But we're just going to make sure that we do the little things right and execute what's called, and not make it bigger than what it is. So thank you guys.
I think Katie had one more.
Oh.
Sorry. Coach Grove talked yesterday that there's a belief among this team that there's still room for improvement. You see that belief, and then just how much better can this team be?
Yeah, absolutely, right. Like I think the last couple of games, we're just too up and down. Running the ball. We didn't start fast the South Carolina game. Like I said, it felt like the twilight zone, honestly. But there's always room for growth. You know what I mean? That's the exciting part, right? Like, always striving for greatness. Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, right? Like, they never got satisfied with how many championships they won. And that's kind of how, we need to look at it, right? Like, just because we won, however many in a row, like, it doesn't matter, So, Tom Brady always used to say his favorite ring's the next one. Like my favorite win is the next win, whatever that's going to be. So that's kind of how our mentality needs to be, and how we need to make sure that there's always more. We always want more. I know it sounds greedy, right? And you want to be humble, but that's just how it is. That's how you got to survive in the SEC, survive in college football, and competitive sports like we do anyway. So awesome. Thank you guys.
Thanks, guys.